Hello everyone, I'm bringing you a video today looking at a PBF gas mask, an East German PBF gas mask bag or carrier. Now the PBF is obviously a Soviet gas mask. It was issued in East Germany in limited quantities. I've seen the police using them around the Berlin Wall in the 1980s, and the carrier for it is quite interesting. It's a shortened version of the standard East German gas mask bag, or it's a shortened version of that designed for the M10. It has one compartment for the gas mask. Obviously it doesn't need separate compartments. The filters are contiguous with the mask, so you don't need a separate compartment in the bag to carry the filter or canister. So we're going to have a look at the design of the bag. That's the main thing to look at in this video. We'll have a quick look at the PBF as well. I'm not a huge, my expertise is not great on Eastern Bloc gas masks. I know a little bit about them, but not a huge amount. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about the PBF. There are lots of other videos on YouTube dealing with these masks and talking about the history of them and so forth. So I recommend going and watching those if you're interested in more general information on the mask. But the carrier, the gas mask bag we have here, is quite unusual. And obviously we'll have a quick look at the PBF as well. So here it is, the PBF in the East German respirator haversack or gas mask bag or protective mask bag, whatever you want to call it, whatever term you want to use in English. This is obviously a shortened version of the standard East German gas mask bag intended for the M10 or M10M. So the later designs of these, designed for the M10 or the M10N, have a single internal compartment, and this is basically one of those shortened due to the smaller size of the PBF. So the external details here, you can see this is sort of short and squat. Normally they're a good sort of 10 centimetres, I'd say, taller than this, probably, the bags. And this one is considerably shorter than the standard. You can see on the side here, there is the pouch for the decontamination kit. This has had one in the past, and I've had to do repairs to this. Thankfully, the fasteners fasten in with a screw thread, and you can use a small driver. I forget what the clips are called, but you can get the pliers with the pin heads, which can be used for removing clips which secure shafts and things like that, and you can use those actually to open these, or anything with two prongs you can use to open these up. You could use the tips of a small pair of scissors, for example, to twist these and unscrew them. Obviously lefty-loosey, righty-tighty as is standard. And the same is true for these, and you've got sort of a squared off section on each side of this where you can put a little spanner or something to grip that and tighten them off. So I've managed to repair this, just glued in the washers, made of the same material as the rest of the haversack, but this, as you can see here, needs a bit of a clean. It's had the decontamination kit in, and that has affected the cloth and had damaged the fastener there, so I'm still fairly delicate with that. It also damaged the strap, which I've glued back together in the interim, and I'm going to try and repair the stitching here as well. That's something to note with the decontamination kits for these. If you receive one of these bags with the decontamination kit in, remove it and clean out the contents, because it's horrible stuff. It's a bleach paste. Wear gloves, be very careful with it. It's really nasty, and it does degrade the materials that the bag's made from. If you put it in a box with a load of other stuff, it will contaminate whatever is in the box and can cause degradation, so be very careful with them. They are bad news in terms of preserving things. So no decontamination kit in there. They were only ever really to be issued and carried in time of war, so it's not necessary to have one. This is basically per how it arrived with me. I've not added anything, I've not taken anything away. This is just the contents as it's arrived with me. I've not tried to complete the contents or anything. This is just how it arrived. The way the shoulder strap operates is basically standard. You have the buckle there, and obviously a ring on this side which it runs through, so you can shorten that off, and it's just fixed in place on this side behind the side pocket. If we look at the rear here, you can see there is a waist strap, and you can see that also adjusts in with a buckle here. And then you have a D-ring to a clip, which clips onto another D-ring at the end there, as you can see, to secure this around the hip, stop it flapping around. This had also received some significant wear on the back here. Not quite sure what's caused this, but I've glued a patch in inside to seal up that hole, and just to repair this a little bit since it's arrived, which has worked very well. I just used a standard sort of Yoo-hoo type multi-purpose adhesive, rubber adhesive, and it's worked very well, and has bonded very well, to the sort of pleather that this is made from. The canvas side, the cloth side of the pleather, glues very well with that type of glue. If you ever need to repair one of these, that's the little tip, is that that sort of glue works very well. And the fittings and the piece of material used for this were actually taken from a damaged bag which had been affected by the decontamination kit, and one that I've since replaced, and obviously is now a source of spare parts for these should I need to repair any more going forward. Opening up the main compartment here, you can see the contents. We'll have a quick look under the flap here first of all. You can see here this has a date of 77, I believe that's the date in there, and that would suggest to me these were introduced in the mid-1970s. I don't actually have a date for the introduction, interestingly. I thought the PBF was a little bit later than that, but I could be wrong. I'm not an expert on sort of this Eastern Bloc gas masks, should we say, protective masks, but I thought the PBF was a bit later than that, so I could be wrong on that with the date there. We do have the bag, which this would originally come in here, which is still included, which is quite nice, but that is just a polythene bag, so I'll put that to one side. The mask itself is carried in the main compartment here, and you can see this is a size 2. You can see there M79 on there. You obviously have the section to go over the ears there with the thinner rubber over the ears to aid in obviously hearing through the rubber hood of the mask. Flatten that down, we can have a better look at this. This is the PBF itself is something that's been discussed on many YouTube videos previously, so I'm not going to go into this in too much detail here, but obviously it is an optical mask in that you have the flat round eyepieces set into the rubber here. You can see why these are known as the gorilla mask, colloquially. Very obvious why. Obviously it is a cheek filter mask, so you have the filters set into each cheek of the rubber face piece there, as you can see, and they are fitted internally. Inside here you do have an oral nasal cup in there. Let's see if I can open this up a little bit so you can see in there. We have an oral nasal cup in the middle there, as you can see, the two intake valves there and the exhale valve in the centre there. Voice diaphragm in there as well. Overall it's quite a good design of mask, and they were intended primarily for use in sort of anti-riot situations really, and they're a lighter weight, more compact cheek filter mask than the N10. So it's just something to note there. I think there is an ink stamp around the inside rim of this as well. You can see there a little bit of discoloration to the rubber, but otherwise in good condition. Let's see there. So quite nice condition really. I was quite interested to add a PBF to the collection, and the fact this one came with the East German bag is quite nice. I've wanted one of these for a while, ever since discovering they existed, this sort of short version, to complete the set of these gas mask bags, and these don't turn up all that frequently. I've seen a couple come up for sale, and obviously I bought this one, but they're not as common as the other ones, which are sort of all over the place. And both the earlier examples for the SCH M41, which obviously have the separate compartments inside for the canister and the face piece, and the one for the M10, which is just one big compartment. And as I say, this is basically a shortened version of the one for the M10. As you can see in there, there's just one big open compartment in there for the mask itself. In the front here you do have a compartment for things like the protective cape and so forth could go in there. There is also a compartment at the rear there as well. Of course, you do have optical inserts, interestingly, but these are not of a size I don't think would fit easily within the eyepieces of the PBF, but they're in there anyway. And obviously you do have compartments in there for them. I've not opened that up to have a look, so they could be. And then just a pair of the inner protective gloves there, which were worn inside the rubber protective gloves for obviously when worn with the chemical protective suit. So just a pair of those in there, on another set of eye inserts, anti-fog inserts there. So I'll add those to the other ones in that little compartment there. But that's what arrived with this. It's not the complete contents for this, for sort of wear with the protective suit, but it's just what arrived with it, and it's therefore what I've left in the carrier. You can see the patch at the back there glued in place just to cover up that hole. Move that out of the way, you'll be able to see that a little bit more clearly. You can see that in there. That's just glued in place and it's bonded in very nicely. The sort of pleather side of this material is bonded to the canvas side quite nicely there, just using sort of a Yoo-hoo type multi-purpose adhesive. It's worked very well. So that's the carrier itself, the bag, and obviously a brief run through the mask itself. As I say, the PBF itself has been covered in great detail on YouTube in other videos by people who know a lot more about these than I do. So if you search it on YouTube, you'll find more information about this itself. But I thought it'd be interesting to have a look at this in conjunction with the East German carrier for it. So I'll pop that back in there. Just pop the bag back in on top. what that was there, just a piece of cloth, and just close that up again. So quite a neat design really, and it does just neatly hold the PBF, being a much smaller mask than the M10 or the SCM 41. So it makes sense to have this little compact carrier, this little compact gas mask bag to go along with it. So there we are. So I hope you found this interesting looking at this. As I say, these gas mask bags are relatively unusual, certainly nowhere near as common as those designed for the SHM 41 and similar masks and the M10/M10M. So it's quite unusual compared to a lot of other East German protective gear, I guess you could say, the protective suits and so forth. This is a relatively unusual element of that sort of equipment. So hopefully it's been interesting looking at this, as I said, and if you'd like to see more of this sort of thing, please do consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And whether you're newly subscribing or you've previously subscribed to the channel, please do make sure you hit the little bell, the notification button down below, and that will of course alert you when I upload future videos. That's everything for this video, so until next time, bye for now.